Hi friends, it's Miss Brittany and I have Brantley here with me. Brantley, say hi.
Hi.
And we are going to read you a story today and it's called Curious George Visits the Zoo. But before we get started, since this is our first day, I wanted to tell you guys that we are going to be learning about zoo animals all this week and next week. So, who can think of an animal that you might see at the zoo?
I think about a penguin.
Brantley said he thinks about penguins. I love seeing the penguins at the zoo. You're right, we might see an elephant. Who knows? There's lots of different animals at the zoo. Yeah. Okay. So, when we are thinking about animals at the zoo, we're going to start talking about what they look like, what sounds they make,
I don't see
what they eat. And those are all called descriptive words. So we are going to work on describing some animals. We might do some size sorting this week. Later on, you're going to get to play a game with Miss Chloe and I. You're using your listening ears, and we are going to play a Zoo Clue game. So there's going to be lots of fun things to learn all about the zoo this week and next week. But today's just day one, so we are going to read Curious George Visits the Zoo. It was written by Margaret and H.A. Rays. Look at the front cover. What animal do you think George might see at the zoo? I think he will see an elephant. Curious George visits the zoo. George, said the man, how would you like to go see a real elephant? Let's go to the zoo. There is a lot to see at the zoo. They were giraffes with their necks so long they seemed to reach the sky. Look at the giraffes. Giraffe has a long neck, and I see that a giraffe has spots.
Yeah, it does have spots.
It does have spots. There were the kangaroos carrying their babies in a special pocket. Look, you see the kangaroos are carrying their babies in this little pocket. And finally, there were the elephants with their floppy ears and their long trunks, munching on hay. It was lunchtime. They're using their long trunk. People were eating on the park benches and picnicking on the grass. Ooh. I love to pack some snacks to eat at the zoo when we visit. I'm gonna find out what time they feed the lions, said the man with the yellow hat. Wait here and don't get into trouble. While George was waiting, he saw a zookeeper with a pail of bananas for the monkeys.
Mommy, I can see.
Look, there's George. He said, don't get into trouble. And he sees a zookeeper walk by with bananas. I wonder, what is George going to do next?
Eat a banana, Mommy.
Brantley said he might eat a banana. I don't know if that's a good idea. The keeper put the pail down to get a drink at the water fountain. George was hungry. He grabbed the pail and he ran away with it. I think he's getting into trouble.
Yeah, I see my only bananas.
Hey, shouted the keeper, stop that monkey. But George kept on running. A crowd of people were standing near the monkey house. Just the place for George to go hide. There he is running away with the bananas. Standing by the cage was a little boy holding a red balloon with a long string. Suddenly, one of the monkeys reached out and snatched the string from the boy's hand. And he ran to the top of the cage. And then he tried to squeeze the balloon through the bars, and the other monkeys started to shriek and scream. Do balloons belong in the monkey cage? No way. The little boy was crying. Please, can somebody go get his balloon back? Asked the mom. None of the people could reach that high. There's a boy that's so sad without his balloon. But George knew what to do. With that pail in his hand, he climbed up to the top of the cage. He took a few bananas and he fed them to the other monkeys. I wonder what's going to happen to that red balloon now. While the monkeys were eating, George snatched the balloon and he swung down from the cage and he handed the balloon back to the boy. Look at the picture. How do you think that little boy feels? I see a smile on his face. He looks happy again. No more tears. Everybody clapped and cheered. Just then, the man with the yellow hat came running. George, I have been looking all over for you. Do you think George is going to be in trouble?
Yeah.
Oh, please don't be angry with him, said the mother. He saved my son's balloon. George should not have taken my pail, said the keeper. But you know what? He did feed the monkeys. And now it's time to feed ourselves, George, said the man.
Last patient, Mommy.
And that's exactly what they did. What is George eating? He is eating bananas. Does the man with the yellow hat look mad at him? No, George did not get in trouble. All right, friends, can you think back? What are some of the animals that we saw in our story? Brantley, can you remember an animal that we saw in our story?
An elephant.
We saw an elephant. You're right. It was on the cover and inside our story. What other animals?
Giraffes.
We saw giraffes.
And don't forget about me.
And we saw
Kangaroos and elephants.
kangaroos and elephants. All animals that you guys might see when you go and visit the zoo. All right, friends. I hope you enjoyed our story, and I can't wait to see you tomorrow to talk about some more animals that we'll see at the zoo.
I want to see about these.
All right. Tell our friends bye.
Bye.